Cannabis, marijuana, devil's lettuce, weed, whatever you want to call it, it is a huge topic of discussion. Marijuana was first seen for the first time in 2700 BC when ancient civilizations were using it medicinally. Some of these ancient civilizations include the Chinese ancient civilization and the Roman ancient civilization. However, here in America, society's attitudes towards this plant have constantly been changing over the past couple hundred years. And those changes are catalyzed solely by racism in America. For example, in 1611, weed was introduced into Jamestown. Weed was used in order to make things like rope. So the hemp was used to make things like fibers in order to make it into the rope. And this made it an instant cash crop, meaning that they made significant amounts of money. In Virginia, if you did not grow cannabis, then you actually got fined. But if you did grow cannabis, you got rewarded with money. According to the medical marijuana procon.org, the Jamestown settlement was the first place where marijuana was found in America. Also, next we're going to jump to 1910 to 1920s, and this is when the Mexican Civil War was going on. So a lot of immigrants from Mexico were fleeing up into the United States. They brought some weed with them, but weed was already in the United States at this point. It wasn't solely from people from Mexico coming up, but it started being blamed on Mexicans because in 1920 is when the Great Depression started going down, and they needed an outlet to blame for the economic fall of America. And so the Mexicans were the easy way out, and they started to use the word marijuana, but instead of the J, they spelled it with an H and put emphasis on that H in order to make it sound more Mexican. And by doing that, they're trying to simulate that marijuana and Mexicans are bad and they go together. So that was the first little act of racism that started with the attitudes towards weed going downhill. Next, in 1950, legal action comes in with the Boggs Act. This act makes a standard minimum, mandatory minimum sentencing, meaning that your first offense of weed possession, not even for distribution, just simple possession, is a minimum of 2 to 5 years in federal prison. This is being said in Doris Provine's book, Unequal Under the Law. And Doris is a professor at Arizona State University. And she says that the Boggs Act was created in order to keep these people in jail if they do use marijuana. So like I said, the first offense, you're in there for 2.5 to 5 years. The second, you're in there for 5 to 10 years, and the third is 10 to 15 years. And that is a drastic difference to what it is now, to not nearly as much. These mandatory minimums were something that had to be followed no matter what. And disproportionately with these mandatory minimums, Black and Hispanic people were disproportionately affected because according to the United States Sentencing Commission, a government website, it is stated that Black men have 19.1% longer sentences than the white male with the same offense. And that just proves that racism is a catalyst in putting these men in prison and how long they will be in prison for. Next, in 1970, we have the Comprehensive Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Act, and more specifically, the Title II Controlled Substance Act in that. So this is by Richard Nixon, and he goes away with the mandatory minimums. He doesn't go much into emphasis with that, but instead he takes it into putting weed as a categorized Scheduled I drug, meaning that it has no medical purposes and it is highly addictive or high risk for addiction. Putting weed in this category now makes medical marijuana illegal when it was illegal previously. This being in the Controlled Substance Act, it is now in the same level as things like heroin and other hard, significant drugs like that. And this now allows for the war on drugs to get more intense. This is the law that starts the war on drugs, because with the Controlled Substance Act, they can say that it is a Schedule I drug and has absolutely no purposes for benefiting you as a person, so that it is a bad all-around drug. And that is a means for them to put you into jail. Next, in 1996, California comes back and legalizes medical marijuana. And by doing this, they are helping white business owners make more money. Previously, with the war on drugs, it was Black and Hispanics being disproportionately affected by the over-policing in their neighborhoods because of marijuana. But now, fast forward to 1996, California is legalizing medical marijuana. And now these white dispensary business owners that can sell this legalized drug are going to be making billions, while there are still millions of men that are still in prison for simple possession of marijuana crimes. Next, in 2012, we have Colorado and Washington legalizing recreational marijuana, and those are the first two states to do so. And by doing this, again, it is helping the white business owner. According to AP News journalist Sean Piles, 81% of cannabis industry business owners are white males. And that being said, that shows that it is disproportionately targeted towards white men to make the money, instead of the people who were affected the most by the war on drugs being the Black and Hispanic communities. Also, that being said, with the recreational marijuana, this is the first state, these are the first two states to do so back in 2012, and it is now a multi-billion-dollar industry, and people are making significant money off of it, while there are millions of men that are still in prison because of marijuana-related crimes. So over the past 100 or so years, things have changed drastically. It started out from being medicinal all the way back in 2700 BC to being okay medical in the 1800s to the 1910s, to the people from Mexico coming in and now being accused and associated of this wrong stereotype, evil violence associated with Mexicans and weed. Then to completely being cut off, no medical purposes whatsoever. It is an awful drug, highly addictive, all the way to now it's totally fine. It's recreational. You can go buy it in a dispensary, just like you can go buy some alcohol in the store. The attitudes towards weed have constantly been changing, and it's clear to see that the fact that they are changing is caused by different race aspects. Some of them are sole racism, like the reason marijuana, that name came about because it sounded Mexican, to marijuana now being legalized and white men being able to make millions and billions of dollars off of it. While according to drugpolicy.org, in 2012 and 2013, 13,000 people were deported because of marijuana possession. So that being said, that shows that it is clearly a race issue. If 13,000 people can be deported for marijuana, while a white business owner can be making billions off of the same industry.